zero tolerance. So do you guys know what's happening right now? Do you know what's happening right now? Do you understand what's happening? Because you have to ignore the content of the statements. The content of the statements we know is a bunch of bullshit, it's a bunch of lies. That's really besides the point. The point is, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to do? And what is happening behind the scenes? They are coordinating behind the scenes because there's been a massive, massive freak out about the rise of the DSA, and the rise in anti-Israel sentiment as well, with, of course, 80% of the country, basically, or Democrats in the country, believing Israel to have committed genocide, which they did. Doesn't matter whether they believe it or not at the end of the day, because they in fact did. And there's scholarly consensus on that. In fact, New York Magazine has finally come around to using the term genocide for the genocide, because even they had to contend with the fact that these international organizations that study genocide have come to the conclusion that that's what that was. So New York Magazine is now even using the word. Actually, I wanted to show that real quick. But, in the face of all this, Democrats are freaking the fuck out. And in their minds, instead of being like, okay, what can we do to kind of like embrace this, or how can we sort of like integrate these people into the party, or like how do we beat them on the merits? If they have an issue, with DSA candidates, like then they should go to the drawing board and they should think about how they can win with their centrist candidates and some of the concessions that they think they can afford to make so that they can keep themselves in power. But instead of doing any of those things, what these Democrats are trying to do is to use brute force. And that's kind of been the pattern over the last 10 years, is the attempt to use brute force. Hillary Clinton tried to use that on us in the 2016 election. You need to support me or else. It's me or Trump. And I'm not going to do a single thing to bring you into the fold. I'm not going to acknowledge a single thing that you're saying. In fact, I'm going to smear you and I'm going to attack you. And then I'm also going to say that you need to vote for me because, or else. That's what happened in 2016. A lot of people didn't go for it. And she lost. 10 years later, we have that same dynamic where even after all the opportunities to learn this lesson, even after the loss in 2016, even after the loss in 2024, and in seeing the sorts of candidates that are rising and are beating, in some cases, Democratic incumbents or, famous resistance candidates like Alexander Vindman, they still haven't realized, that something needs to change about them and their behavior and what policies that they're willing to embrace. And there's nothing wrong with moving towards social democracy. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You can be in the Democratic Party. You don't have to be a socialist, but you can understand that we need to move towards a more social democracy. There's nothing radical about that whatsoever. Because again, the comparison that already exists, the other countries that already have those systems in Europe are social democracies. They're not like pure like socialist countries. They have socialist aspects to their system. But so it's a moot point about the socialism. The socialism thing is a fucking moot point. What people are trying to do is they're trying to get to a place where at the very least we have social democracy. And for some folks, they see Democrats and they see capitalists being completely unyielding, and they say like, well, then we're gonna run socialists. We're gonna run actual socialists who are gonna help balance, at the very least, help balance the system, which is all the maximum end result can be, and it won't even be that. It won't even be that because we're still a minority. We're still a minority. We don't have enough Bernie Sanders type candidates to even get Medicare for all done just yet. We're just trying to add to the pool. That's what we're doing. We're adding to the pool of people who might vote yes on something like Medicare for all. So for you to be melting down and having a fit over this is really childish and it's really pathetic. First of all. But and for you to not be willing to like adopt any of those positions remotely is stupid. It's really stupid. It's really self-sabotaging. Because you could keep your office and you could keep your career potentially if you're willing to be flexible and you're willing to adapt and you're willing to evolve with the times. You work in politics. Politics don't stay static. If you're expecting things to stay static, then you don't understand the world that you live in. You don't understand your role in the world that you live in. You're a politician. You are governing at a time when we were experiencing massive, massive changes, just the invention of the internet and social media and AI in a very short timeline, in a matter of 3 decades, right? My entire life is basically spans 3 decades. And in that time, we've gone from no internet to social media to now AI, and all the power that those things have over our discourse, over people's actions, over people's beliefs. And so, yeah, you have to be fucking adaptable because things are changing every single goddamn day. And things have always been changing. But now there's a speed at which things, I feel, are constantly shifting that politicians need to learn to adapt to. So you can't just sit there for a decade straight and say, like, I'm not going to change anything that I'm doing. I'm not going to change anything at all. I'm going to do things exactly the same as I've always done them. People are asking for healthcare, not doing it. People are asking not to support a state that's committed a genocide, not doing it. Like, calling those things radical is absurd. It's absurd. It's insane. It's radical in and of itself. It does not make any sense whatsoever. So, for these people to be so insistent on staying the exact same is very, very dumb. But what's happening right now with the Hasan Piker stuff, it's about Israel. That's what it's about. It's about he's a Twitch streamer. He's not the most influential person in the world. But they see the connection between him, his stream, and the candidates that we've been getting elected. Abdul, DSA candidates, obviously the fact that Hasan has physically traveled to and has stimulated some amount of additional organization or door knocking or phone banking via his streams, and that this is translating from a stream to actual electoral results in some amount. And they may be slightly overestimating how much he's actually influencing that versus how much is like a pre-existing desire for those things that he's just kind of like going and like giving a helping hand to. But at the same time, I understand why they're making the connection that they're making. I actually do think that he's influential and he's becoming more influential. So the obsession with him and the obsession with knocking him down and getting people to disassociate from him is because they don't want anti-genocide candidates getting elected anymore. They don't want DSA candidates getting elected anymore. They don't want you to be able to associate with these ideas. And who is the biggest influencer when it comes to those specific ideas? When it comes to socialism or DSA or being against the genocide? Well, they don't know who the fuck I am. So for the time being, yes, it's Hasan. It's Hasan. And that's why you're seeing all the focus. It's about squashing. It's about squashing the anti-genocide movement and the DSA movement, which are essentially, at this point, have sort of fused into being one of the same. That's all it's about. So while it may seem strange to you, why do they keep focusing on this Twitch streamer? Why is it just Hasan all fucking day? Because he is a connection. He is the connection to this movement that they are trying to squash before it gets any further than it's gotten. There's a few DSA candidates, just like before. There's only a few members of the squad. They want to nip it in the bud and have there only be like, you know, maybe 8 of them, and hope that they can get primaried out of office in a couple years like Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman did. Remember that happened to Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush? Yes, because of AIPAC. They're plotting how they're going to get rid of those people and get back to business, get back to the status quo. So that is specifically why you're seeing them talk about Hasan constantly. They want to cut off this connection so that DSA candidates can no longer rise and get elected. They want to make him, they basically want to make him as politically toxic in the Democratic Party as we have made AIPAC, right? Because on one side you have AIPAC, which is an entity which helps get candidates elected, but they do so with massive amounts of money, millions and millions of dollars, by essentially operating in the shadows. You don't actually see them. You don't really, I mean, you do hear from them, but for the most part, it's a fairly quiet operation. And then on the other hand, you have someone like Hasan, who does not have millions of, well, he has I don't know, a net worth of like a couple $1 million maybe, but he doesn't have millions of dollars to spend on elections or, you know, like to drop like just a casual 6 mil on a candidate. So what does he do? He travels physically to a place where people can get together and plan a canvas or a phone bank, and they organize. And that has stronger material results than the AIPAC spending does. Are y'all seeing it? The contrast between Hasan and AIPAC? Because the power that AIPAC previously had is not powerful anymore. It's not effective anymore. The money is not traveling as far. It's not working. The going to the ground and organizing the people and getting the people hype and getting the people motivated and getting the people excited, enthusiastic about doing something, maybe because you care about the candidate, but also it's like, well, that's my favorite Twitch streamer is here. He came to my town, he came to my city, and I like him, and I don't normally do stuff like this, but he's influencing me to do it, and so I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go. Like that's what they're afraid of. That's what they're afraid of, because that is what is happening, and it actually like has the capacity to overpower AIPAC and therefore big money in general. If you can overpower AIPAC's money, you can overpower any lobby's money. That's scary for them. That is big scary for them. They want to nip that in the bud quickly. So that's the point. That's the point of attacking Hasan. That's the point of the coordinated attack. You got to see it for what it is. And you got to understand that it's about something bigger than just him. It's about keeping us from understanding that we are worthy of receiving investment in ourselves, in our healthcare, in our housing, in our infrastructure, for the tax dollars that we pay, the tons of tax dollars that we pay to this state that just takes and takes and takes from us and gives our money to bombing children in the Middle East, and then tells us that we have to be okay with that, and if we're not okay with that, we're anti-Semites. That's the whole thing. That is the whole circle. So that's what's happening, but it's not going to work.
$11 tip from Great Value Lewis Hamilton.
Fuck ICE, fuck Israel, fuck Benjamin Netanyahu, fuck the IDF, and fuck Donald Trump. Fuck ICE, fuck Israel, fuck ICE, fuck Israel, fuck the IDF, and fuck Benjamin Netanyahu.
Let's go.